Welcome to CharityVillage Connects. I'm Mary Barrell. According to the 2022 Canadian Survey on Disability, the employment rate for persons with disabilities currently sits at 62%. While this figure has risen in recent years, up from 59% in the 2017 survey, it's clear that a lot more progress should be made in creating more inclusive and accessible workplaces for Canadians with disabilities. We're talking to accessibility experts from across the sector to find out about the challenges and barriers that contribute to this employment gap, along with nonprofit organizations, what they can do to address these barriers within workplaces, programming, and communities. Joining me to discuss these important issues is Ryan Straschnitzki, founder of the Straz Strong Foundation. Ryan is a former hockey player who played for the Humboldt Broncos for the 2018-2019 season and is a survivor of the horrendous highway bus crash that tragically took the lives of 16 team members. As founder of the Straz Strong charity organization, he's pursuing his dream to play in the Paralympics in the future and attends physiotherapy regularly to achieve his dream of walking again someday. Ryan's journey has not been an easy one. He understands that each and every day will be a battle, not just physically, but mentally as well. Through his foundation, Ryan hopes to give back to the disabled community. His dream is to one day live in a world where people with both mental and physical disabilities can have a better quality of life through adaptive sport funding, gain access to inexpensive rehabilitation, and increase social awareness for those who have limited understanding of how life is for someone with a disability. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, you're the founder of the Straz Strong Foundation. Can you give us some background on what led you to start this foundation? We'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, so after my accident in 2018, I was in the hospital and I had my former trainer. He started this non-for-profit called Straz Strong, and he raised funds for my rehabilitation needs moving forward. And I remember it was sitting in a bank account during the pandemic and wasn't really being used for anything. And so I decided I wanted to give back to the community. They gave so much to me during my time in the hospital and even to this day. So I knew that I wanted to take that money in that account, turn it into something good, and give back to the community to remove some barriers for people with disabilities. So I decided to take up the non-for-profit and start doing what I could every day to bring more awareness around the non-for-profit and hopefully expand it into something more. And since then I've turned it into a charity organization, so we're able to become more prominent within our area of Calgary and Alberta, and hopefully can make some changes in the future.
Now, where did the name Straz Strong come from, and what does it mean to you?
So when my former trainer started the non-for-profit, he goes to the story of when we did summer training for off-season training for hockey. He mentioned, there's strong and then there's Straz Strong. So I guess I must have been a strong individual for him to name it after me like that. So that's his story. I mean, I take it more of a message as though like when we work together, we can create a strong community that can make changes for the better. So that's his version, and the other one's mine.
I like them both, actually. What are your goals with the foundation?
Just to become more prominent, I think we can start removing some of the barriers as far as access to adaptive sport equipment or programs, as well as rehabilitation programs, as well as we can remove those financial barriers for individuals looking to better their lives. I think, it creates a more safe and wholesome environment and allows people to thrive and flourish and try to reach their goals. I know when I've always tried to aim to reach my goals in life, that's been the most fulfilling time. And being able to be involved in sport and pursue rehabilitation changed my life. So I wanted to change the lives of those around me as well.
Well, you become very involved with parasport in your home province of Alberta and nationally. Can you tell us a bit about what it means to you and others to be able to continue competing?
Yeah, it's amazing. Sport was my entire life. My dad got me into hockey at a young age and played golf and a little bit of football, soccer, tried it all. And I knew that sport taught me so many valuable life lessons, both on and off the ice or the courts or anything like that. And having to move away from home at 16 taught me how to mature faster and how to live independently. And so I know the power of sport, and I knew that in order to get people out of their sort of sheltered lifestyle, maybe it allows them to go out there, learn some of those lessons, and create friendships and memories that'll last a lifetime.
And what role do adaptive devices play when it comes to making sports more accessible? Are adaptive devices generally available to those who need them, or is more funding needed to create more inclusive opportunities for Canadians with disabilities to become involved in sport?
There definitely needs to be some changes. I know that when purchasing adaptive equipment, you'll have to go online, you'll have to know exact measurements. And then on top of that, it's quite expensive, right? We compare regular sport to adaptive sport. And for those wanting to play basketball, as an example, you need some runners in a basketball, right? Compare that to the cost of a sports chair and then the right equipment for yourself and then the basketball, right? Like there's a lot of barriers that could go either way. I think it's important to remove those barriers financially, especially because living life with a disability is expensive as it is. And so we're trying to create more programs and provide some of that adaptive sport equipment so more people can get into sport. And it's not going to be easy, so there needs to be more funding and more awareness around this so more people can help out, we can provide more equipment, and we can start changing lives.
Now, you've spoken out in the past about the need for more accessible building design in Canada. Part of this podcast is about employment, and of course, employment includes accessibility to the workplace. Can you talk a bit about, your views on more accessible building designs in Canada?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I mean, I'm from Calgary. It's quite an old city, so getting around downtown and trying to access certain places aren't just going to happen, right? I mean, there's a lot of it goes from outside to inside. The infrastructure of buildings, some not having elevators, some having stairs, some having lifts that don't meet code, right? There's a lot of different things that go unnoticed that need to be changed, and it's not just for people with disabilities, right? It's for people who might acquire an injury. It's for it's a bit of an investment, right? We're working towards that universal design, which isn't obtainable. Or like there's no solution, but there is a way we can get one step closer so that everyone can access any part of any building with no problems or hassle. So it's a work in progress, but I think again it comes from knowledge and learning, and that want to learn, to want to change, to provide a more inclusive environment for everyone.
Now, I understand you've actually taken a certificate on universal building design with the Rick Hansen Foundation. I'd love to hear more about this and why initiatives like this are important for creating a more accessible future in this country.
Yeah, so I did the uh, Rick Hansen certification course online at SAIT, and I got to know Rick over the years, and he's just the most amazing guy I've ever met. And his one key message was that there's more to a person than his or her legs, and that really inspired me to want to sort of be like him and provide that sort of accessibility and access to everything in life, really. And so the next step for me was taking that course. I think it was about 6 or 8 weeks. It wasn't too extensive, and you got to learn the ins and outs, learn code, and get to meet a lot of people that want to make change as well. And so, because of that, I think hopefully that brings more awareness, and hopefully platforms like this can provide that awareness and knowledge and that want to change your architecture a little bit. So I think it's super important, and it almost should be mandatory for most construction businesses or people wanting to build or renovate certain projects.
And what are your thoughts on the barriers that exist that may prevent people with disabilities from fully engaging in the workforce? How does inclusive building design play a factor in this?
Well, I think if you know that a building is accessible, you know that it's easy to access, that it starts from the parking lot, right? Is accessing the parking lot from there, getting into the building and accessing all parts. If someone knows that it's not accessible, it's a bit of a hassle that might hold them back from actually even getting there in the first place, right? And that could prevent someone to want to get involved. And I think there was a statistic that went out that said people with disabilities are some of the most loyal, hardworking people, and are people you need within your force, right? And if you're gonna unknowingly discourage someone from entering the building to begin with, then you're probably not doing the right thing. So it's important to make those changes first, and then then the results will show.
And, I know that a part of your goals with the foundation is to increase social awareness for those who have a limited understanding of how life is for someone with a disability. I wonder if you could address that with us. What do you want people, um, to know more about having the empathy and the understanding of what it might be like to live life with a disability? What message do you want to get out?
Um, I think the biggest thing is just have the conversations, right? It's you know you could go 10 million different ways with this sort of answer, but I think conversation spreads faster than a lot of things, and social awareness doesn't just mean okay, we're going to make a change and that's it. It's continuing the conversation, always looking for solutions, learning from people with various disabilities, right? There's so many different things out there that you could open your mind to and at least have a conversation about to create change, create solutions, and or at least trade-offs in a sense, and have an understanding of the field, because I've met a lot of people that have never seen someone in a wheelchair before and they don't know how to react, right? It starts with that knowledge of we're people too, right? And it's important to make those changes, right? It doesn't just affect people with disabilities, but at some point or another you will face a form of it, whether it's age or an injury. Like, it's important to have the implementations in place before anything like that happens.
Now, you actually talk quite a bit about mental health. What would you like to share with our audience based on your experience and the mental health concerns and issues around the importance of having mental health in particular?
Yeah, I think mental health is a serious thing. Some people overlook it. I know personally, I've dealt with certain issues where maybe it's not even revolving around what had happened. It's other things in life, accessing sport or figuring out what you're going to do in life. There's a lot of various factors that play a role in your mental health journey, and so I think the first step is always going to be the hardest one. That's taking initiative. That's speaking out to someone, whether that's a friend or a trusted person or a therapist, even. Um, I know once that ball gets rolling, it becomes a lot easier from there. But that first step is always going to be the hardest one. And so I encourage people to, take a good look in the mirror and decide what you want to do. If you're going to talk to someone, trust me, things get easier. But the more you hold it back, the harder it's going to be on yourself. And it's going to be hard, but it's a constant journey. And the more you work on it, the easier it gets.
And what kind of message would you want to send out to employers, particularly those in the nonprofit sector, about making their workplaces more accessible for people with disabilities?
I think the sort of making mandatory the education mandatory, and then from then on building up, right? You have to start somewhere, and I think building a knowledge base where everyone has at least a base understanding of what's needed to make things more universally accessible. I think it starts there, and again, once the conversation gets going, you build up, you lead to architecture, you lead to programs, you lead to outlets and various ideas. But I think you have to start somewhere, and I think it starts with the foundational base of the knowledge and learning and the want to learn about the world with disabilities.
And as we end off today, maybe you could look ahead a little bit. What's next for Ryan and the Straz Strong Foundation?
So personally, I'm trying to make the 2028 Paralympics in wheelchair basketball, and then on top of that, I'm trying to grow the charity, continuously growing it, trying to make some donations, trying to raise some funds. Right, we want people to be a part of this journey as well. We're all Straz Strong, and so we want some funds to be raised, some equipment to be bought, and then hopefully we can start changing lives for the better.
Well, those are lofty goals, but ones I'm sure that you'll be making, Ryan. I'd like to thank you for your advocacy and the work to improve accessibility for people with disabilities. Um, and I know that this your wise advice will be invaluable for nonprofits and charities across Canada about how they can break down barriers and make their workplaces, their programs, and their communities much more welcoming and accessible. Thank you for joining Charity Village Connects.
Thank you.